and be advocates for your overall well-being.
Welcome to The Health View.
Welcome to The Health View. I'm Yvonne Dunetz, and today we're going to be talking about enjoying your summer vacation along with preparing for school. And my guest today is Dr. Benjamin Garber. He's a psychologist and an author. And welcome, Dr. Garber. We're so pleased to have you.
Thank you, Yvonne. It's a pleasure to be here.
So summer is a great time for families to be able to really reconnect in a more casual way, a more not rushed way. What are the recommendations that you have for families to take the time to really enjoy this opportunity of summer?
You're exactly right, Yvonne. The longer days, the later light, the warmth that invites us to just run outdoors without all the bother of boots and coats and hats and mittens invites lots of opportunities for families to get together. There's a million different ways to do that. Let's see if we can cover just a couple very briefly. It's important that families make the time to be together, not let the rush and bother of going off to work or going off to summer camp, getting the chores done, take over time. Summer is, after all, so brief. Those 10 weeks that the kids get off from school disappear just in an instant. I'd like to recommend to families that they make time at least once a week to spend downtime just hanging out together on a porch outside on the lawn, go to a local park, on a slide, on a swing, something of the sort. And in particular, this isn't time to get it right, although of course we need to always be safe. This is time to invest in the child's world. Ask your kids what they want to do and follow the child's lead. Maybe the child wants to play tag or to go on a seesaw or to get on a slide. Follow the child's lead and discover what the child enjoys. Those are the moments that the child's going to treasure and carry on into adulthood. That feeling of being valued by mom or dad is a gift that goes on forever.
How about with older children? Like now we'll move to not only elementary, but middle school or high school level.
Nothing I said is specific to just younger children. I think you'll find that teenagers enjoy a swing or a slide as much as anybody. They might be disinclined to acknowledge that they have fun there, but go on a picnic and watch how they gravitate towards the swing set. They'll use them differently, but they'll have just as much fun. I suppose older kids these days are tied to their laptops and their cell phones and their video games. Perhaps one of the rules families should consider invoking when they spend family time together is there's no screens involved. We're going to go out and we're going to unplug. It's hard. I find it hard myself to put away my phone. Perhaps you do as well. But if you can get over that initial withdrawal, oh my goodness, did somebody text me? Did I miss an Instagram message? After that first 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes maybe, the phone's forgotten, and then we can rediscover what it's like to run around, to throw a frisbee, to toss a football, to learn how to go fishing, something of the sort.
You can go for walks together, bicycle rides.
Absolutely.
Try a new sport.
The simplest pleasures. And you're highlighting that what we're talking about doesn't have to cost money.
No.
That's right.
It's really important because some people are worried that maybe it will be more expensive time, and then how are they going to do it? When your children were growing up, and as you've worked with children all these years in your profession, what are the most fun things that people say that they enjoy the most when they're with their families, or when children really have downtime that they enjoy?
My thoughts go to actually what I enjoyed most as a child myself, and it's fairly well what I was just describing to you. I remember, for example, one summertime that my father, who was always a very busy workplace sort of person, took the time and he let me take him camping. And I packed the food and I packed the gear, and I was so proud of being able to, this is where we're sleeping, and look, I brought along this food and I made the fire, and here I am many, many years later, and he's long ago gone. I miss him terribly, but that memory stands out among all of my memories of childhood. We can give our kids those same sorts of memories by doing exactly what we've just been saying. Taking the time to step away from the routines of life, putting down the screens, and following the child's lead to discover how the child thinks, what the child feels, what the child enjoys.
You can be creative too. I remember if you necessarily don't have the means or don't choose to get a tent and go camping that way, you can always, your backyard.
Yep.
You can always do something creative there and be able to sleep out there with your sleeping bags or your quilts or whatever else and make it fun, as well as, do art things with your family.
Yep.
Play games. How many people play games nowadays? It's nice to play games together.
I'd suggest that everybody plays games nowadays, but they play them facing a little screen in front of them. You're talking about something different.
Board games, playing together.
Face-to-face time is what we're talking about. The generations to come are missing out on that because they're not making eye contact like you and I are now.
Right.
They're not learning to read those nonverbal cues. They're not learning to relate to one another the same way that you and I did growing up. It's becoming a lost art, like cursive in the schools. Yeah. And it's important now that summer's here to go out, or on a rainy day, stay in. But enjoy the warmth, enjoy the downtime, enjoy the relaxation. Here's something we haven't said yet. School's out.
Right.
Well, just the presence of school during the school year increases every child's anxiety. Even during the weekend, how many hours is it until we have to go back to school? What time do we have to wake up in the morning? Is there homework that has to be done? Particularly in junior high and high school, all of the pressures associated with school. That pressure is off our kids now during summer, and they're more open to learning and growing and developing relationships. Take advantage of that opportunity. Go out now and get to know your child.
It's a wonderful opportunity. And when you talk about anxiety, it is a relief for some children to have that downtime. Plus, I think for parents too, because they're pushing and juggling and doing so many things. So it's time for them to also take time for themselves too, as well as each other, as well as the family together. Really important. But when we speak of anxiety, there are transitions that occur. Children, as they're going through summer and enjoying summer, maybe going to camp for the first time or trying sports camps or doing different things, what would you recommend to parents and families on how they can support one another through that?
Generally, transitions do spark anxiety. You're exactly right. For some more than others, particularly if a child is prone to anxiety in the first place, little transitions from our points of view can seem momentous and insurmountable to them. So let's talk about ways to make those transitions smoother. I'd like to recommend to parents that making the world predictable, making the world boring, in fact, is a good thing. Boring just means that we know what to expect one day to the next. We don't have to invest our finite emotional energy in trying to understand what's happening next.
You give examples.
Well, you mentioned going off to a summer camp. If you have the opportunity, if the camp will allow, go there as a family before the first day of camp. Walk through the facility, meet the counselors, look at the different activities. Take the time to make a craft together. Just make every aspect of the summer camp experience as familiar as possible before day one. Some children have difficulty getting on the bus to go to camp. If there's a bus involved, go visit the bus parking lot. Look at the buses. Those children who've never ridden a bus to school during the school year, who have to get on that pretty yellow bus to go off to camp, sometimes it's scary. Show them where they sit. Maybe you can introduce them to the bus driver. Any bit of advanced familiarity will make the process a lot smoother. One other thing comes to mind. The subject is, in my field, called transitional objects. A transitional object is anything that communicates a loved one's love, caring, affection in that person's absence. Tiny little children carry around stuffed animals and lovey blankets and such. We're not going to send off a teenager to summer camp with a stuffed animal, maybe, but maybe mom or dad can give that child a necklace, a watch, something to stuff in their pocket, a note in their lunch bag, anything of that sort that the child can turn to when stress gets higher, can help that child feel less anxious and manage the stresses of being away from home even for just a day.
Okay, and so when you're saying these things, it also helps us recognize that as we enjoy summer and go through the different experiences of summer, that there may not be children that go away to camp, but there are public recreational camps and things to do in parks and recreation that have a variety of things that people can participate in. Plus, doing and having activities and having some type of structure in the sense of at home can be very fun also for children. But then as the summer goes by very quickly, then children are beginning the transitions and thinking about preparing for school. What happens next? So what are your recommendations for, let's say, the transitions related to going from one level to the other? Let's say from elementary to middle to high school.
They're very similar to what we've just been saying, but let's stress that a transition from one teacher to the next, even in the same building, can be just as stressful for many kids as moving from grade school to middle school to high school. I would want families to go play on the playground in advance of the beginning of the school year.
At the school that their child is going to.
At the new school, at the place that they're going to be. Keep the physical place as familiar as possible. Go in and meet the teacher as early as you can. Don't get in his or her way. We don't want to be a burden. But lots of teachers will invite an anxious child in to help put up a bulletin board, arrange the books, arrange the desks. That sort of little bit of empowerment, even in the early teenage years, can be a very welcome opportunity and help a child feel like he or she belongs in the classroom. I want parents who are enjoying a different schedule during the summer months to recognize that the last week of summer in advance of the start of school should begin the school year routine. So I work often with parents who are separated, divorced, living apart, and they'll often bicker about which day is which on the summer schedule through the months of June and July. That last week of August or the week before the start of school should be back on the school year routine. I want Billy and Sally and all of our children to be going to bed earlier. They'll complain, that's okay. It's still light out, it's not school yet, I don't have to wake up in the morning. But getting into that habit will make the first day of school that much easier. Here's another trick that the kids won't like, but we have to remember that our job isn't to make them happy, it's to help them be healthy. I want kids to take a little bit of time every day, especially in that last week before school, to practice reading, writing, and school-related activities. If the child has a desk or a place where they study during the school year, let's set aside some time, it could be just 15 minutes a day, where we're going to sit and read. Reading together with a parent is a great activity. Doing some math problems, getting ready for the year ahead in that way can be wonderful preparation. It doesn't have to be a burden. We can make it into a game. For every math problem that you answer correctly, you're going to get 15 more minutes to play in the park. For every page that you read, we can stay up a little bit later tonight and watch the stars come out, something like that.
So you're saying not to wait to do that until the last week or two before school, but to utilize the summer as opportunities to help children continue to learn and be ready for their new year.
I want learning to be part of every day in every child's life, not a burden that just comes during those 180 days of the school year.
You know, I remember, and I still love it, Scrabble is a great game. And it's a great game to teach the alphabet and words and reading and have fun as a family.
Yep.
It's a wonderful game. But things like that, fun things to do, really can make a difference in helping prepare children. Now, children that have perhaps learning disabilities, what would you recommend to their parents in helping them to, during the summer, to keep prepared and active and perhaps to recognize what were the challenges in the year before and what are some of the things they can do over the summer to help it be more easy for the child as they enter a new year so that they don't forget things?
I'm hesitating, Yvonne, because there is such a thing as a learning disability. And
Yes.
Generally speaking, we're talking about a difference between how much the child is learning and what the child is able to learn in one or more specific areas of learning. Maybe for our purposes here, we should talk more generally about learning differences or strengths and weaknesses. We all
Okay.
have them.
Yes.
I failed math in college, and I've been embarrassed about it ever since. I've gotten over it, but my reading and writing skills are much better than my calculating skills. I'm sure you have similar.
Everybody has
That's
strengths.
right. That's right. So parents have to make a choice, regardless of what the child's strength is, whether they want to develop prodigy in the areas of the child's strength at the risk of leaving behind their weaknesses, or whether they want to help the child grow into a more equally skilled person across domains of learning. So for me, it'd be important for me to practice math along the way, make it into a fun thing so that I'm not intimidated by it, because my reading and writing skills are adequate, I'd say. For a child who's weaker in reading and writing but good in math, I would want to make reading and writing part of the everyday routine, not a burden, not a chore, certainly not something that elicits anger and upset. That will make it harder for them when they go back to school. But let's play games and make a fun activity out of, what does that sign say? What does this page say? How can we decode these words to figure out where we're going? Billy, you want to go to the amusement park? You read the map. Get us there. That sort of thing.
Absolutely. And of course, it's also, the summer is a good time because it's a little more an easygoing time, that if you wanted, you could connect with the schools and get a tutor. If there's a particular subject matter that has been a struggle, to be able to have the downtime in the summer to get that extra support if needed.
I agree, although I wouldn't know where to send a parent at this point of the year to get a tutor from the school. I'm sure
schools are open, and they do have connections, and their secretaries at the school and the administration buildings.
The SAU offices will be available.
Yes, and they can help, but also there are ways that people can give parents some information so that they can help in that regard with their children.
Absolutely. In this day and age of the internet, however, unless the child has an IEP or 504, and particularly what the schools call ESY, Extended School Year Planning, unless those things are in place, I'd start by sending a parent to Google to say, how can I help my child learn calculus this summer, or geography, or Shakespeare, whatever it is. There's lots and lots and lots of creativity out there, games and opportunities and ways for kids to acquire new information and practice familiar skills so that come September, they're on top of their game, they're not anxious, and they're able to succeed.
Now let's talk about the high school student who's about to go to college. What are the things that can be done over the summer with the family, as well as to help assist and support that new graduate to go off from home and start their own new beginning?
It's a huge transition. I've been through it with my own kids a couple of times. I don't know that there's generic advice. It gets so complicated because we're talking about a young adult in most cases, and we're probably talking about kids who have a summer job, who might have a driver's license and access to a car, who are exploring and experimenting with independence. Getting them to spend family time together can be a major chore. If the question is, how do we help an 18-year-old who's on his or her way off to college, particularly a live-away college, get ready for that opportunity, I want to encourage families in particular not to procrastinate and leave planning for the last minute. If there's going to be a trunk full of stuff or cardboard boxes full of things to prepare, let's find a room in the house where we can set them up and begin collecting things now. We'll make this week bathroom stuff collection week. Let's get some towels, the soap, there are containers that you carry down the hall to the communal bathroom. You're familiar with what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then the stuff for the room, for the beds, things that you'll need, but also to remember the family pictures, or when you talked about the child going off to camp and maybe taking something that's meaningful, to make sure that they're transitional objects.
Yes, that's right. That's right. By the same token, if the opportunity presents itself, I'd have the child go off to the school and send home T-shirts with the school logo on it, because we miss our kids as well, and we need those transitional objects while they're away.
It's very true. And I think perhaps you could speak to the transition for the parents getting ready as they're having their child leave, things that they can do to support each other.
Well, as many of your viewers who are sitting there watching us and thinking, I'll be glad to be rid of them, and some of them will say that to their kids, although I hope not. My wish would be that they'd admit to the fact that having the kids around is really a treasured opportunity, and we're going to miss them. It's hard when they leave. Okay, the house will be quieter. You won't have to argue over who gets that last piece of pizza or the last Oreo in the bag. But the important things, the love, the face-to-face contact, the picnic in the backyard, the camping trip like I remember it, those things happen less often after the child leaves home. So go out there now, enjoy the summer with them, see if you can corral the child, pick a night. Wednesday night is going to be, this is going to be family night. You're not going to go off with your friends. We're going to put away all of the screen time. You're not going to take the car. We're going to sit around. Yes, we're just going to sit around and we're going to talk. We'll make a fire in the backyard, if the city allows it, of course. We'll roast marshmallows. We'll do legal, fun, safe things so that we have memories together that you can take off to school and that we can hold on to while you're away at school.
And it's also holding on for a lifetime, isn't it?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So how about the student that now is in high school and going into their junior year or senior year and preparing related to the tests that are coming up, if they're going to be going for further education? What are the things that you could recommend to parents and the students to help put that all in perspective? Because that can be a very anxious time.
Absolutely. Yvonne, the same ideas that we've been talking about here today apply to this question as well. Organization is key. Planning ahead is important. Making the world predictable is crucial. So if we're talking about a child who's going to be entering his junior year in high school, for example, and we're starting to think about colleges, now is the time to be looking at those college guides to pick out the schools that we're going to apply to or visit. I know you don't have to do it now, but if we get it out of the way during the summer in advance of senior year, or excuse me, in advance of junior year, which can be the hardest year in high school, can be a little bit easier because those preliminary steps will be out of the way. A lot of kids get caught up in writing that universal essay for the application form. Get started now. I know they don't want to. The sun's out, the kids are calling, the phone's ringing, there's all kinds of opportunities, but a half an hour a day will diminish so much anxiety next year when we're back in school and really the academic demands are pressuring us.
So if we were to summarize the most important things that we can do from the real little ones, that maybe even starting nursery school, because we jumped up, what would be the things that we would want the parents to do with them to help them transition when they're about to start nursery school?
Well, let's summarize across ages, including nursery school. Number one, I want every parent to find time on a regular basis to live in the child's world rather than forcing the child to live in the adult world. And that means getting down on the floor with a little one. That means going out in the backyard with a big one. That might mean going on a drive and talking side by side rather than face to face, which can be so threatening to some people. That means learning what music the child likes and what games the child likes, what words the child uses, and so long as the language and the activities are safe, sharing them with them. That's number one. Number two, let's make the world predictable. I recommended to you earlier that boring is a good thing. People laugh at me because it sounds silly. Boring means the world's predictable, and predictability, structure in general, diminishes anxiety. If we can put up a big wall calendar that plots out, these are the 10 weeks of summer, this is when grandma's visiting, this is when you're going to summer camp, these are the nights that we're going to all be together, they can bicker about it and argue about it, but they'll know what's happening, and there'll be no excuse for not being there. Finally, let's focus on the process, not the product. The school year and the work life are all about getting it done right. Vacation time, summertime, downtime with the family is about being engaged in getting there, not the destination itself.
And as we prepare for the first day of school, that night before and that
oh my
day
goodness.
of,
Well, make sure bedtime's in place. They've already been going to bed on time. That last week before school starts, remember, we're going to put that all in place in advance. Lay out the clothes in advance. Make sure we know who's going to be sitting at what desk or on what seat on the bus as best as we're able. Make sure we know who the teacher's going to be, if that's possible at all. Make the world predictable and knowable. Plan out what's going to be for breakfast the next morning. Maybe the child can pick out a special breakfast for that morning of. And one of those critical issues that comes up for so many kids, put 5 alarm clocks in his room if you need to. Let him know what time he's got to get up, and make sure that getting up becomes a ritual rather than an argument.
And when they come back that first day of school and each day after, as far as communication and learning about what's happened and connecting?
You're asking important questions. I wish we had more time. Let's make a ritual each day at the supper table, because we're going to be eating supper together every night as a family. That's the goal. Of asking what happened today that made you feel proud, and what happened today that you wish you hadn't done. Something you're proud of and something that you regret. Let's focus, please, on matters of pride that includes things I worked hard at and things I succeeded at. Being able to acknowledge those two things every day begins to build character and maturity in our kids that will last them forever.
So they go through that routine, so they're connecting from parent to child, child to parent, and keeping all the lines of communication open.
That's right.
Being safe, enjoying one another, spending time together, and as the school year comes about, making a point of also spending time together.
Feeling valued.
Feeling valued. It's wonderful that you're here. The school year is always a very exciting time, but also can be an anxious time. And what we're trying to do is support families and children at all stages of their life in every way that we possibly can. So sleep well, eat well, make sure that you go out and get plenty of fresh air, have activities, be together, communicate together.
Exactly.
And most importantly, I think, especially in this hectic life that we live in, put down the computers, put down the phones, and have fun with one another.
Exactly.
Get to know each other in the best way possible so that you make memories that will be with each other for the rest of your life. We thank you so much for being with us today. Until next time.
Thank you.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.